Under the blistering Texas sun, a black veteran-turned-delivery driver discovered an infant girl locked inside a parked car, her face beet red, her breathing faint. Ignoring warnings and potential legal consequences, he smashed the window to save her. But instead of gratitude, the child's mother threatened to sue. It wasn't until the doctor said, 2 more minutes and she wouldn't have made it, that the man was cleared. What happened next will teach the mother a lesson she'd never forget. Before we dive into this story, let us know where you're watching from. We love to hear your thoughts. It was just past noon in South Dallas, and the sun was relentless, soaking the pavement in a blanket of heat, the kind of heat that made the air ripple above car roofs and scorched the skin in seconds. Darius Miller stepped out of his delivery van, sweat already gathering under his navy shirt despite the short walk from the driver's seat to the back of the vehicle. At 42, Darius had the solid build of someone who used to be in the military, because he had been a former Army medic, now working for a local courier company. His skin was deep brown, his beard well trimmed, and his eyes, calm, observant, held the weight of someone who had seen too much and still chose kindness. He had just scanned the last package when he heard it, faint, high-pitched, not from the store, from the parking lot. He paused. There it was again, a soft cry, like a baby's, but muffled, distant, strained. His brows furrowed as he turned, scanning the rows of cars shimmering in the heat. Then he saw it, a silver SUV, parked crookedly near the red curb. No shade. All windows up. The sound was coming from inside. Darius walked toward the vehicle, his boots crunching on the hot asphalt. As he got closer, the cry became clearer, and weaker. He crouched down near the rear window. That's when he saw her, a little girl, no older than 2, buckled in a car seat, her cheeks flushed deep red, hair stuck to her damp forehead, her mouth open in a soft sob, but it was clear she didn't have the energy to scream anymore. Darius felt his chest tighten. He stood up and looked around. A couple of people were heading toward the store, glancing briefly his way. No one stopped. No one seemed to notice. He tapped on the window. No response from the child. He tapped harder. "Hey, you okay?" he said gently, almost a whisper. The girl's eyes fluttered, unfocused. He pulled his phone from his pocket and called 911. "Yes, I have an emergency. There's a baby locked inside a car in the Target parking lot off Cedar Hill Road. Looks like heat stroke. Please send help, fast." As he hung up, a woman nearby, mid-30s, holding a Starbucks cup, strolled over. "What's going on?" she asked. "There's a baby in here," Darius said, voice tense but steady. "She's not responding." The woman looked in, gasped, and stepped back. "Oh my God. Did you call the cops?" "Yes. They're on their way." Another man in a polo shirt joined in. "Man, you better not touch that car. I've seen cases, people get sued for breaking windows. Just wait for the cops." Darius didn't respond. He looked back at the child, her tiny chest moved barely, her lips were dry. More people started gathering. Some pulled out their phones to record. Someone said, "This is crazy." Another muttered, "Can't believe a mother would do this." But nobody acted. Darius clenched his jaw. He checked the sun again. Still no clouds. Still no breeze. Just heat, baking the car like an oven. "She won't make it if we wait," he said. "Sir, just wait. Cops are probably right around the corner," someone insisted. Darius looked at them all. Then at the little girl. And then, without another word, he turned, walked to his van, pulled out the steel tire iron he kept under the seat. When he returned, some people stepped back. One person shouted, "Hey man, don't do that, you're going to get in trouble." Darius didn't hesitate. His hand gripped the bar tight. He could feel his pulse in his neck. The girl's face was pressed sideways now, no sound, no movement. He raised the iron and brought it down hard against the rear window. Glass shattered with a loud crack, drawing gasps and a few screams. An alarm started blaring. Darius reached in carefully, unlocked the back door, and opened it wide. Heat exploded out. He unbuckled the child quickly. Her skin was burning hot to the touch, her eyes barely opened. He pulled off his shirt, wrapped her in it, and stepped back into the shade of a nearby awning. "Call EMS again," he said loudly. "Tell them it's urgent." He sat on the curb, cradling her gently, whispering soft words, rocking slightly. His hands were trembling now, not from fear, but from rage at how long it had taken for someone, anyone, to do something. And all around him, phones kept recording. But still, no sirens. The sirens were still nowhere in earshot. When Darius glanced down at the girl in his arms, her breathing was shallow and her fingers twitched weakly, as if trying to grasp something that wasn't there. He pressed the cool fabric of his damp shirt gently to her forehead, silently willing the heat to leave her small body. His own heart thudded loud in his ears, but his hands moved with the calm precision of a man who had once treated wounded soldiers in desert tents far from home. Now he was on American soil, yet watching a child fade, because people feared lawsuits more than death. A young man in his 20s stepped closer, phone still recording. "Yo, I got the whole thing, man. You might go viral for this," he said, almost casually. Darius didn't even look up. "You filming for clicks or for proof?" he asked quietly, not expecting a real answer. The man hesitated, lowering the phone slightly. "Just, in case she tries to sue." "She?" Darius asked. And then he heard it, a car door slamming shut across the lot, followed by hurried footsteps and the frantic sound of heels clicking against pavement. "Where's my baby?" a woman screamed. Darius looked up as a young woman in athletic wear came sprinting toward the broken SUV, grocery bag swinging wildly from one arm. Her blonde ponytail bounced with each step, and panic was etched into every line of her face. When she saw the shattered glass, she froze, eyes wide with shock. "Oh my God! What happened?" Darius rose slowly to his feet, still holding the child. "She was locked in your car," he said evenly. "In the heat. She was barely conscious." The woman's face contorted, from panic to confusion to fury. "Why did you break my window?" she snapped. "You had no right to touch my car." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone muttered, "You've got to be kidding me." "She could have died," Darius said calmly, his voice now carrying an edge. "I called 911. We waited. Nobody came. She wasn't moving. I was only inside for 5 minutes," the woman shouted. Darius met her eyes directly. "That was 5 minutes too long. I was just grabbing diapers and formula. I had her in the stroller, but she fell asleep and I didn't want to wake her. I left the AC on, I swear." "Wait." She turned to the vehicle, opened the driver's door, stared at the dashboard, then cursed under her breath. "Damn it. It must have shut off when I locked the doors." There was silence for a moment. Then she looked back at Darius, pointing a trembling finger. "You damaged my vehicle. I can't afford a new window. You shouldn't have touched it. I could sue you for this." Darius's jaw tightened, but he didn't raise his voice. "You do what you need to do. I'll do what I have to." He turned slightly so she could see the child. The girl's head rested limply against his shoulder now, eyes shut again, cheeks pale. The mother's face crumbled. "Is she, oh God, is she, breathing?" "She's alive." "Barely." Right then, the distant whine of sirens finally began to swell. Red and blue lights flashed as an ambulance pulled into the lot, followed closely by a police cruiser. 2 EMTs jumped out. Darius stepped forward quickly. She's overheating, he said, handing the girl over. She was locked in that car for too long. The EMT nodded sharply and cradled the child in her arms. We've got her. As the ambulance doors shut, the mother tried to follow, but an officer stepped in. Ma'am, we need to ask you a few questions. She spun around. He broke my window. We'll get to that, the officer said, looking at Darius next. You the one who made the call? I am. What happened? Darius told them, every word measured, every fact clear. No drama, no excuses. Just the truth. A few others backed him up. Even the guy with the phone finally spoke up, nodding and saying, yeah, he saved that kid. The officer jotted something down, looked back at the mother. Your daughter was alone in a locked car. In this heat. Do you know how hot it gets in there? She's my daughter. I was gone for just a minute. Long enough, the officer said, voice colder now. Someone in the crowd muttered, if he hadn't acted, we'd be standing over a body right now. The mother looked around, really looked, for the first time. She saw the shattered glass, the judgment in every pair of eyes, the phone cameras still recording. And in that moment, her anger wilted into something else. Guilt. Fear. Shame. Darius didn't say anything more. He just stepped back, arms by his side now, breathing slow and steady. The heat still radiated off the pavement, but the fire in his chest had settled. He had done what needed to be done, whether they saw it or not. Back at the curb, Darius leaned against his van, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the ambulance now speeding toward the main road. The mother stood beside the police cruiser, arms flailing as she spoke quickly, her voice rising and falling in waves of emotion. A second officer had joined them, taking notes while the first tried to calm her down. She didn't even thank you, someone muttered nearby. A woman in scrubs, probably a nurse getting off shift, shook her head. She's more worried about her car than her child. Darius didn't answer. His eyes remained on the broken glass at his feet, tiny pieces glinting in the sun like fragments of a decision he couldn't take back, but wouldn't want to. A few moments later, the first officer approached. His nameplate read Carlson. He looked to be in his early 50s, stocky, with thinning gray hair under his cap. His tone was polite but firm. Mr. Miller, we've taken statements from several witnesses. You called 911, assessed the child's condition, and took action. That correct? That's right, Darius said. Do you understand that entering someone's vehicle without permission can be considered a criminal offense in this state? Darius's jaw locked for half a second before answering. I understand. I also understand that little girl was fading. I wasn't going to stand around and watch. Carlson nodded once, no smile, no judgment. We've seen too many cases like this go south, fast. EMS says her body temperature was over 103 when they got her. They're still evaluating. So she's stable? Darius asked, his voice tightening. We don't know yet, the officer said. But your decision may have saved her life. From the corner of his eye, Darius caught the mother turning sharply toward them. She marched over, her face still blotchy and red from emotion. This isn't over, she said. You can't just destroy someone's property and act like a hero. You don't even know me. You don't know what I've been through. Darius met her stare calmly. You're right, I don't, but I know what it looks like when a child's about to collapse from heat stroke. Officer Carlson stepped between them slightly. Ma'am, we've spoken to several people. They confirmed he waited, called emergency services, and only acted when the situation escalated. We're not pressing charges at this time. At this time, she repeated, voice rising. So it's still possible you're not even going to file a report? We filed a full report, ma'am, Carlson said. But based on the evidence and witness accounts, there's no crime on his part. The woman looked like she wanted to scream. Instead, she spun on her heel and stormed off toward her car, kicking a stray piece of glass as she passed it. Carlson turned back to Darius. You might want to stay local for a day or two in case we need a follow-up. Mind giving me a number? Darius handed over his ID and wrote down his cell. I'm not going anywhere. As the officer walked away, Darius finally exhaled. The crowd had mostly thinned. Now, a few people still lingered, whispering. He heard his name being spoken quietly, as if people were trying to decide what kind of man he was: hero, lawbreaker, trouble. A woman approached slowly. Mid-40s, glasses, kind eyes. She held out a business card. I'm an attorney, she said. If anything comes of this, you call me. No charge. Darius looked at the card, nodded, and tucked it in his pocket. Appreciate it. She lingered a moment longer, then said, some people don't realize that being a parent doesn't mean you're ready to protect what you did. That was protection. Darius didn't respond right away. He watched as the broken window was all that remained of a decision born not from impulse but from principle. He had seen enough people freeze in moments that required fire. Today, he chose fire, even if it burned. The next morning, the hospital released a statement to the local news station. Darius didn't plan to watch it, but when his phone buzzed with a link from his younger sister, he clicked it anyway. The anchor's voice was smooth and composed, but the words hit hard. Doctors at Southside Medical confirmed that the toddler found in a locked vehicle yesterday afternoon was suffering from severe heat exhaustion. Her internal temperature upon arrival was 104.2 degrees Fahrenheit. According to pediatric physician Dr. Elena Ramos, at that temperature just 2 more minutes could have resulted in irreversible brain damage or death. Darius paused the video and sat back in his chair. The living room was quiet. His twin boys were still at school. Sunlight slipped through the blinds, painting soft lines across the floor. He rubbed his hand over his face, letting that last sentence echo in his head. 2 more minutes, that was it. If he'd listened to the voices telling him to wait, to obey the rules, to stand down, there might have been a funeral today. He didn't feel proud. He felt still, like something inside him had aligned, not out of glory but necessity. Like doing the right thing had simply been the only thing. His phone rang, unknown number. He hesitated, then picked up. Hello? The voice on the other end was soft, almost hesitant. Is this Mr. Miller? Yes, speaking. This is Laura Green. I'm the mother from yesterday. Darius straightened in his seat, heart rate ticking up. He said nothing. I just got home from the hospital, she continued, voice tight and raw. They told me about her temperature, about how close it was. They showed me the charts. I didn't know. Darius let the silence stretch. He could hear her breathing on the other end, uneven, like she was fighting back tears. I wanted to say thank you, she said quietly. I was angry, embarrassed. I felt attacked and I lashed out. But the truth is, you saved her. You did what I should have done. Darius finally spoke. She's okay. They're keeping her overnight just to be safe, but yes, she's stable. They say there's no long-term damage because of you. He closed his eyes for a moment. Relief poured in, heavy and humbling. I don't expect forgiveness, she added, but I want you to know I'm not pressing anything. No claims. No lawsuit. I hope you can forgive me for how I treated you. Darius's voice was low. What matters is she's safe. That's all I wanted. There was a pause. My brother saw the video, she said. He told me people are calling you a hero. You probably don't want to hear that, but it's true. I'm just a man who made a call, Darius said. She exhaled shakily. Well, I'll never forget that call. Thank you, Mr. Miller. He hung up without needing more words. The call wasn't closure. It was clarity. Later that day, the video began spreading beyond the local feeds. News outlets picked it up, using headlines like "Delivery driver breaks car window, saves toddler from heat stroke," and "Hero or lawbreaker?" Community divided after viral rescue? Comment sections boiled over with debate. Some hailed him as brave. Others called it vigilante behavior. A few questioned if it would have been handled differently if he weren't a black man in a white suburb. Darius read a few posts, then stopped. It didn't matter now, not really. The truth had come. It wore no uniform, carried no badge, just a voice on the other end of the line saying, "Thank you." And for Darius, that was enough. 2 days later, Darius stood outside the community center in Oak Cliff, adjusting the collar of his cleanest shirt. He wasn't used to attention, and he certainly wasn't used to cameras, but when the local station asked to interview him for their Everyday Heroes segment, he didn't say no. He didn't do it for recognition, but if telling the truth helped someone else make the right call in a tough moment, then maybe it was worth the discomfort. Inside, the makeshift studio was warm with lights and quiet chatter. A woman with a clipboard greeted him, handed him a bottle of water, and led him to a chair in front of a backdrop of the Dallas skyline. The interviewer, a poised woman in her 50s with a deep voice and calm presence, smiled as he sat down. "Mr. Miller," she began, "you've been called a hero, a good Samaritan, and even a lawbreaker. How would you describe what happened that day?" Darius didn't shift. He looked her straight in the eyes and spoke slowly. "I saw a child in danger. I waited as long as I could. But the longer I stood there, the more I knew that waiting was the wrong thing to do. So I did what I'd want someone to do if it were my daughter in that car." She nodded. "Did you think about the consequences?" "I did," he said, "and I accepted them. I'd rather get fined, arrested, or sued than stand over a little girl who didn't make it. That's not something I could live with." They played part of the video during the segment. Darius watched himself on screen, breaking the glass, holding the child, ignoring the crowd. And it didn't feel like watching a hero. It felt like watching a man do what any decent person should have done, only he'd been the one to do it. After the interview, as he stepped outside into the early evening air, a voice called to him. "Mr. Miller." It was the woman from the hospital, Laura Green. She held her daughter on her hip, healthy, alert, and sucking her thumb. Laura walked up slowly, eyes filled with something softer this time, respect, humility. She wanted to say, "Thank you," Laura said, voice catching. Darius crouched slightly, meeting the little girl's eyes. She looked at him with curiosity, then reached out and touched his cheek. For a second, the world quieted. No cameras. No opinions. Just a connection. He smiled gently. "You stay cool this summer, all right?" The toddler giggled. Laura looked down. "I signed up for parenting classes. I'm changing jobs, too, something that lets me work from home. I want to do better." Darius stood up and nodded. "That's all any of us can do." They said goodbye, and he watched them walk away, mother and daughter, hand in hand. Not a perfect ending, but a better one. Later that night, Darius sat on his porch. The air was cooler now, a glass of sweet tea resting on the rail beside him. His boys were asleep inside. The neighborhood was quiet. For the first time in a long while, he felt the kind of peace that comes not from being told you did the right thing, but from knowing you didn't wait for permission to do it. No medals. No spotlight. Just a man who acted when it mattered most. Because sometimes, doing the right thing means breaking a rule, and sometimes the cost of waiting is a life that never gets the chance to grow. Darius Miller never asked to be called a hero, but when a little girl needed saving, he didn't wait for the world to agree. He just moved. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.